Today you'll hear about a guy in Florida who put a trailer on Facebook Marketplace for $40. Met his first customer in a parking lot with no contract and a handshake, and built that into an operation that pays all his bills. Our guest today is Justin, the founder of Trailer Hustle, running a rental trailer operation out of Jacksonville, Florida. In this episode, we discuss how Justin grew to 12 trailers and how he's intentionally scaled back to 7 to focus on what matters. How nearly 40% of his gross revenue now comes from repeat customers that he's built a relationship with. And why he says the best trailer to start with is the one sitting in your backyard. If you've got a trailer you're not using, you're early in building your fleet, or you want to hear how someone turned this into a full-time income without a huge upfront investment, this one's for you. This is the Rent It Out podcast, where side hustles turn into real businesses. I'm your host, Cal Hardich. Start small, rent it out. For 10 seconds about my business, this is exactly how Load It Trailers started. Started small, started with a trailer, added a second one. We have a third now, and depending on how you count, we may have 4 or 5, but we don't have them all going right now, but just building it slowly as we go. For 10 seconds about the podcast, wherever you're listening to this, subscribe or follow. We'd greatly appreciate it. Justin, we want to welcome you to the Rent It Out podcast. We're excited you're here today. To get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started renting out trailers?
Definitely. Yeah. Appreciate you having me. Excited to be here. Yeah. So I got started renting trailers just like, hundreds or actually thousands of others have. I mean, I started because I just had a trailer sitting in my backyard and I just didn't want to sell it, but I also didn't want it rotting away. So I was like, I wonder if somebody will rent it, and I just put it on Marketplace for $40 and lo and behold, somebody rented it. And it just kind of snowballed from there. When you start advertising a trailer for rent, people start asking you for things you don't have and you start getting ideas like, if I had that trailer, I probably could make this much money. And, it just kind of, if you have that entrepreneurial mindset or spirit, whatever you want to call it, you tend to kind of follow that opportunity. And that's just what I did. That's kind of how I got started. About me really quick, I'm turning 37 this month. I'm located in Jacksonville, Florida. Started my rental company at the kind of like the middle to end of 2021, I believe is what it was. Yep. So haven't been at it that long, really. And in fact, there's guys that have started way more recently than me that have far surpassed me in this thing. It's a really cool business. But yeah, really grateful to be doing it. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have really enjoyed the journey with it, and it's allowed me to buy some trailers I wouldn't have bought. And now I have access to them. So,
yeah. And a lot of people has the same thing. It's like they don't necessarily get into it to start this big business. It's more so like, I'd love to have this trailer and, I could get it for free if I just rent it out a couple of days a month. It's a lot of guys get started off that way. And then they start seeing more potential like, there's actually money here in this thing. And of course it just kind of balloons up from there. And there's others that just keep it small and that's cool. But yeah, a lot of people get started the same reason.
Yeah.
Same way.
What made you think that renting out trailers could work in your area?
Well, I didn't really know, to be honest, because my biggest mistake when I first started was I just didn't really take the thing serious.
Oh,
it was truly just like let's see what happens. I've always had side hustles. I've always had little other businesses, and like I said, I just put it on there for rent. And I think I probably made like 2 posts on Facebook Marketplace, and it rented probably 3 days after I made the post for $40.
Nice.
And then, and that guy, he's still a customer to this day. He rents my car trailers and all kinds of trailers now, which is great. And then probably the next week it rented 2 or 3 days. And then it did that pretty consistently for, a month and a half, 2 months. And people started asking questions. I ended up installing a toolbox and included straps, raised it to $50, and it kept renting, and just did those little baby steps to try and build value or build a bigger ticket, as I've always learned in my other companies or my other jobs. And it just kind of took on a mind of its own and just started growing.
And with that first trailer, it sounds like you had it, you thought, I'm going to try this, put it out. Did you do anything to the trailer?
I mean, I made sure it was roadworthy. I mean, God forbid somebody have a problem because of my equipment. That would suck. But no, I mean, I made sure it was roadworthy and just rented it. It had no toolbox. It had nothing. I met the guy at a movie theater parking lot around the corner. I had no contract. I had none of that. It was just handshake. All right, see you tomorrow.
Right.
I mean, it was truly that basic. And once I started asking questions of the customers, I started realizing that, people need straps, because people were asking, well, hey, do you have any straps I can use? I'm like, I think I probably can scrounge some up. But yeah, I threw a $200 toolbox on there, threw probably, I don't know, $40 worth of straps and spare tire tools in there, and everything that I could think of, like, what would complement this trailer? What are they using it for?
Right.
Okay, I'll use stuff for that. And raised it $10, and the rest is history. And then every trailer from then on, like, I would pretty much immediately get it set up for like all those lessons I learned from that little bitty trailer, and just kind of let it do its thing.
What size was that original trailer?
It was a 6x12 utility, very small.
Yeah, using what you have, get started, see if it works, and then you can build from there.
I always tell people, like, the best trailer to start with is a trailer you already have. And if you've got something sitting in your yard, start with it. Now, it's a little tougher, of course, if you're starting with a 4x8 little, lawn trailer or something. You're not going to get a whole lot of business out of that. And if you do, you're going to make $20, So it's not 6x12 is probably like your best, smallest, or the smallest trailer I'd recommend really starting with, if you can help it. But yeah, I mean, I just had it, and that's what I started with, and it worked out. It gave me enough motivation to say, I wonder what would happen with a bigger trailer, and then it just kept going.
Yeah, let's jump forward 5 years now, or almost 5 years. What's your operation look like today?
It's weird. It's kind of gone up and then back down a little bit, and that was self-inflicted because the trailer hustle side of things started taking off. So my rental fleet, I was up to 12. I ended up selling a couple of trailers that were probably a little slow. I mean, none of them have really been like slow, but I guess they were my slower ones to finance the trailer hustle operation, the things I wanted to build there. I had a couple of trailers get totaled. Well, anyway, I'm down to seven trailers that I'm actually renting now, but it still pays the bills. I mean, it's my full-time income, covers everything that I need. And it also it's the, nowadays, with the infrastructure that I've built up and the way that I operate, it's the easiest thing for me to run and then still focus on trailer hustle and grow that. So instead of focusing on, I mean, I could probably be at 20 trailers in my area and still keep growing at this point.
Yeah.
But I started focusing on trailer hustle when I started seeing the kind of the audience grow for that and see the opportunities with that. So kind of shifted my focus.
Right. And that makes sense. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. For your customers, how are you finding them?
So I do it four ways. Number one, of course, is Facebook Marketplace. Number two would be Google reviews. For anybody listening to this, get reviews, guys. And then the other way is local networking. I network with a lot of other businesses, including U-Hauls and, other rental companies, but also the roofing companies, electrical companies, landscapers, you name it. I network with as many of those folks as possible. And then the fourth way would be the rental marketplaces, such as Neighbors, such as Big Rentals Marketplace, places like that. So that's probably the least amount of marketing I do. I get the least amount of rentals probably from those kind of marketplaces, but I get a significant amount of my business is from the relationships I've built with the local companies. In fact, I just ran a lot of my numbers from the previous year. Almost 40%, or like 39.5% of my gross revenue is from my reoccurring customers, from existing customers.
Yes.
Which is huge. And a lot of that is those like HVAC companies and a lot of those companies. So that's where the bulk of my business comes from, is those businesses. But Marketplace does very well for me. Google does very well for me as well.
A couple of things on that you said. First, that community marketplace, that fourth way, it's a set it and leave it. It doesn't require much time. It's low-hanging fruit. Marketplace and Google, we were talking a little bit earlier. I've got to do a better job with marketing on mine. That's a couple that I use, but I don't use them effectively or efficiently like I can. So I'm going to up that. But your third way of networking with local business owners, I have not done that. And that's something, as I sit down and think about my year, that's a target of mine. How did you start that? Did you just show up with business cards?
Yeah, so a few tactics. Like I started with U-Haul. U-Haul was the first one. I would pop in there with donuts and coffee in the morning, and I'd say, "Hey guys, my name's Justin. I've got a rental company here in town, and like you guys, I have to decline business because either I don't have the right equipment or they don't have the right vehicle. So I send them to you, and maybe you can do the same for me. We have different types of equipment. Maybe we can help each other out. Here's some cards. Do you mind if I take some of yours?" And they'll be nice to you. You just brought them donuts and coffee, so they're going to say, "Yeah, that sounds good." They may never send anybody to you, but a lot of them started. I've got out of like the 9 or 10 that are within, close proximity to me, within a few miles in any direction, I've got 3 or 4 of them that send me people fairly consistently, which is great. And when a funny thing that I started doing when a company, so first of all, if a U-Haul does send me business, I'll go in there and I'll buy them pizza. Like on that first rental, it just really solidifies it, because it's that classic, in the retail environment where I come from, if morale's down, it's like, who wants a pizza party? So anyway, everybody in those environments, they love pizza. It is what it is. They love food. They remember who feeds them. So I would do that and that would really solidify it. But a trick that I do, it doesn't work every time, but it has worked, is if I've popped into a U-Haul and I've touched base with them 4 or 5 times and they still haven't sent me anybody or this, whatever, I'll go in there on that 5th time or something and be like, hey guys, I just want to say thank you so much for sending me all the customers. Here's some more flyers. You probably need more by now. By the way, I'm going to buy you guys pizza just as a thank you. Oh, yeah. And I'll buy them pizza. And they're like, wait, is somebody sending him business? Like, yeah. Right. And that has worked.
I like that.
Yeah, it definitely works sometimes. The other really effective thing would be popping into all these other businesses. There's a difference in, like, let's just say an HVAC company. I'll pop in there, and if I walked in there and said, hey guys, my name's Justin, I've got a rental company here in town. Here's some cards. If I can ever help, let me know. Great. Sounds fine. You covered, whatever. You showed face and all that. But if I walk in and I say, hey guys, my name's Justin, I've got a rental company here in town, and I noticed you guys, I've seen y'all's company loading AC units onto the top of buildings with a crane and a flatbed trailer. I've got those kinds of trailers. So if you're ever like, short on stock or you need another one to get a job done, or if there's any way I can help you guys keep moving, let me know. Here's my card. I'd love to help. And I'll bring them something, the candy or coffee, donuts, whatever. And when I go into these places, I try and kind of, it's a little bit of salesmanship, just like, here's how I can help your business. Here's how I can keep you guys making money and keep you moving. And I'll try and spark some conversation with the upfront people. They're usually the ones that are tasked with finding a trailer anyway by the boss. And that's worked really well. And kind of the third way that I do it is my thing is beef jerky. So it sounds funny, but I've got beef jerky sticks that I buy in bulk from a couple different companies. And if I ever hand a card or a flyer to somebody at a gas pump, if I pull up next to a landscape company and they've got their big landscape trailer, whatever, I'll hand them a card and a beef jerky stick, and I'll just say, hey, the beef jerky's for you, the card's for the boss man. You guys ever need something, let me know. I'll make a funny joke, and it's worked. I mean, it really does work. Those little things that kind of set you apart or leave a lasting impression, that's the stuff that really makes a difference.
Yeah. The 2 things I pull out of there immediately, it's that relationship building that's so important in everything. And I like how you're going in and you're providing a specific use case for them. You're not causing them to think, how can I use this person? You're saying, here's how I can help. And
correct.
I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's cold called every single day. And it's always people like, trying to get something from you versus like, here's the value proposition of like, here's what I can do to help you guys. And, I know that a lot of people that I work with, they always say my business partners, my partners, really it's the customers, but we all kind of feed off each other and work together. It's the same thing. I mean, they're making money off of my product. I'm making money off of them as a customer. So it's a win-win for everybody when you break it down that way and show them, how can I help you? Here's how you can help me. And, that's what makes the world go round.
Yeah, I completely agree. We talked a little bit earlier about your pricing. You started out kind of low, you're working it up. How did you figure out where to land on pricing?
Well, at first it was like when I got my car hauler, my first car hauler, I was like, I wonder if somebody would pay $100. I called the local Home Depot. They had one car hauler in the area that they would rent, and it was like $70, but it didn't include straps. It didn't include anything. I was like, all right, well, let me just say $100 and see what happens. That's basically all it was. And it started renting, and I never changed it. I just kind of never did. And then I started buying bigger trailers, like it went from like a 10K to a 14K or up to a 22-footer or a deck over or something. And I was like, well, it's a little heavier duty. Let me charge a little more. And the price I set, I just never changed it until recently. I've been raising my prices little by little and haven't had any pushback whatsoever. And again, the negative part of me doing that and probably not doing as much research early on in the business as I should have is I set the market around here, and everybody that jumped on board and started renting, they all kind of just followed suit. So the whole area is kind of, below market rate, or really what it should be rather. So I've been raising it. I haven't noticed any drop in customers or anything like that. I think the rest of the guys in the area are going to start doing the same thing. A couple already have. So.
Oh yeah. No, the way the inflation prices on everything else, it's got to grow.
Yeah. I'm jealous too. I see these guys in, Texas and these other areas like we discussed earlier. I'm seeing their prices. And I'm like, man, I'm leaving a lot of money on the table.
Right.
But still, it's yeah. I'm looking at that. I'm like, man, I need to bump my stuff up here. So we'll get there little by little. So I think the big thing is figuring out, making sure that I have other tactics involved or other ways to capture that customer, especially if price does start getting a little higher and start becoming more of an objection. I got to have those other things like getting back to people quicker and having, more unique things that I provide, with the trailers. I mean, I've got to make sure that I kind of keep that up along with the price increase, make sure the value stays there. But so far, so good.
You, with your pricing, is it one set price for like a 24-hour rental? And then do you have add-ons or is everything included?
Yeah, I've seen it go both ways. Personally, I just include everything in there. I mean, anything that complements that trailer. If it's a car hauler, I'm going to have a winch on there. I'm going to include some high-end vehicle straps, and I'm going to include the spare tools, all that. I don't charge extra for any of that stuff. There's been some folks that I've networked with that was kind of their thing. Like, say if I was $100 a day for including everything, they might be 75 a day, but if you want straps, it's an extra $25. And it's like, so it's the same price really, but I've never really wanted to do that because of a few reasons. Number one, I want customers to use my stuff. I know I have very good quality, well-maintained stuff. I want them to be as safe as possible. That's number one. I also want them to use it because it'll look good in a Google review. But, number three, I want to make more money, and people usually aren't going to, have much issue paying just a hair more just because of all that stuff being included. So I've never wanted to do that. And also it seems weird. When you start dropping your price like that and structuring it that way, you do kind of call out a different type of clientele that I personally don't want. I'm very, very selfish with the way I run the business, and I vet my customers very, very heavily, which we can talk about as needed. But yeah, I don't want somebody thinking in their head, oh, I'm going to save $25, and then they're ripping straps out of the bottom of their toolbox that are frayed and destroyed and all that, and then being unsafe. It's just not worth it. So yeah, I include everything in the one price.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, and I have no desire to get the budget hunters. They can find something else. My trailers are premium. Let's talk about that venting process that you go through for your potential customers.
Yeah. So, I mean, it depends on the way that they reach out to me. Of course, all the basics. You make sure they got the right vehicle and, they're not doing something egregious and all that. And some people might not like the way that I say this, but it's just reality, okay? Again, I am very selfish with the way I run my business, and people will do business with you the way that you want to do business. And I learned that a long time ago, and I will never forget it. People will do business with you the way you want to do business. I train my customers to do business the way that I want to operate because I'm selfish. I want this thing to be good for me, plain and simple. My customers will benefit because I run good business. All right, got that out of the way. But let's say somebody reaches out on Facebook Marketplace. Well, the first thing that I do is I check their profile. And maybe that might seem crazy. Some people, man, just take their money. And I did that early on. And guess what? I had a million little problems. I don't like dealing with headaches. I don't want a $30 headache. I don't want a $10 headache. It's like, oh, it's just a strap. It's like, yeah, it's just a strap. Like, how many times? I just don't need it. So if I see something on their profile and what bugs you might not bug me and vice versa, but if I see something I don't like, if they don't seem to show any self-respect for their own self-image or their own sense of community, I'm probably not going to assume they're going to respect me or my equipment. So why am I going to rent to them? Whatever that is. So I'll still ask them questions. Hey, what do you need? When do you need it? Why do you need it? But at the end of the day, hey, I'm sorry, the trailer's booked. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of how I vet people on Marketplace best I can. And it saved me a couple of times, actually. People claiming that they're going to be using my trailer for one type of equipment, but then I checked their Facebook and it's actually a much larger version of the equipment they were saying they were going to be putting it on. And then I call them out and they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, man, yeah, I just saved myself, because they're about to overload it by 5,000 pounds. And then the same with over the phone. I get a lot of phone calls and texts every day from my website and from Google. And I hate saying it this way because it sounds rude, but it's just reality. Some people are dumb. Okay. Some people, how it is. Everybody that's watching this can get real. You've been talking to somebody at some point in your life in the back of your head. You're like, oh my God, this guy is so dumb. It's all of us have done it. Okay. Well, if I get that vibe from somebody, or if there's a communication issue, or if there's a language barrier that I can't seem to break through, or if they're beating me up over price, anything that I think is going to be an indicator that if this trailer comes back with damage, am I going to have a hard time getting money from them to pay for it? I just will not rent to them. It's as simple as that. And it's since I got more strict and more selfish with how I operate, all of those little bitty problems, I mean, like 95% of them just went away. They disappeared overnight. So that's kind of the gist of my vetting process. And sometimes you have to make those hard decisions when you're already kind of far along in the deal, but then a little red flag comes up, then another little red flag, then another little red flag. It's like, hey, I'm so sorry. I can't rent to you. You know, this is it. You're making me nervous. You know, I am that selfish. I don't need the money that bad. Nobody needs the money that bad to marry a problem. And that's just how I feel about it. I've been in retail far too long, and in sales and management and all that. I've experienced every version of human being you could imagine. And that's kind of my superpower, is kind of figuring out like how the interaction is going to go within about 2 minutes of talking to somebody. So yeah, I just turn them away. I just say, I'm sorry, it's booked. It's the easiest way to tell somebody no.
Yeah, it is. With your rentals, are you doing contactless, or are you meeting them at the trailers?
Both. Yeah. I mean, if it's convenient, or if they require help, or they want assistance or a walkthrough or something, I will make sure I'm here. Since switching to the software that I use now, it's made it much easier to do contactless. It made it, compared to what I was using before. So that's great. So yeah, so I do a lot of contactless now, which is great, but it's kind of a mix of both.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I started out wanting to do contactless, but it just made me too nervous. And I had my trailers in a storage yard, so it could have been, but I met them every time. And now I've moved everything to my house, and I do it from my backyard. And
nice.
I meet everyone, but I think at some point I want to do contactless. It's still an option. My customers who are repeat customers, all they have to do is fill out the form and come and get the trailer. So
right. Originally, that was the only time I did contactless, like early on in the business, because it scared me to be honest.
Right.
So I mean, if they were already familiar with me and me with them and them with the equipment, then I would let them do it. Now I do it a lot more, but I recommend anybody that's going to go contactless. All right, whoever's watching this, if you want to do contactless, do non-contactless for 6 months first, because you don't know what you don't know. You know
exactly.
What I mean? Yes. People are going to show up with the wrong size ball and have no clue. Oh, he did tell me 2 5/16 or whatever. People have no idea what they have. People are going to show up in different vehicles than what they told you they were going to. They're going to show up and try and grab the wrong trailer sometimes. There's all kinds of things that you're going to experience that you don't know can happen yet, or you just won't even think about it. So once you get a good handle and get some good reps, doing it in person, seeing people's vehicles, seeing how people operate when they're hooking up your trailer, when they're doing a walk around, whatever it is, that's when you'll be able to put together a really proper process for contactless, knowing the right questions, the right setup, the right videos to make, things like that. Now, there's other guys that have started off straight contactless, got some good buddies that are that way, and they've had no issues. But it's still, in my opinion, the best practice. Do it hands-on for the first 6 months, just because. Get some reps under your belt that way before you go contactless. That's just me.
Like that. I have a short story I'll plug in, even though you're the star of the episode. I'll plug it in this little story about contactless and venting customers or clients. I don't like to rent to someone who's in a big hurry. If you're in a big hurry, find somewhere else, because there's going to be problems. I do not want you to rush. I don't offer short rentals. It's 24 hours. I don't care if it's a 40-minute trip. But
very smart.
So we're going on vacation, my wife and I. And I get a message. This guy wanted a trailer, and he was in a big hurry. And of course, I was like, I need the money. So talk to him. We get everything set up, get him over here. He's in a big hurry. I answer a few questions for him, and he gets the trailer. And I've got the whole spiel I go through with him. And he gets the trailer a couple hours later, after he's drove 2 hours. He's trying to load a vehicle, and he's having problems. And he texts me, so I'm trying to help him over the phone. And he texts me, he says, "Is this not a 2-inch ball?" No, it is not. Check the earlier messages, and it's on all my listings.
Right.
And I looked at my wife, I thought, oh no. And he says, oh, okay. Yeah, it's fine. I said, it needs to be on 2 5/16. And he brought it back. I didn't have any damage, but that did not make me very interested in contactless for a long time.
Yeah. I'm totally on board with it. And if I could, just to touch on what you said at first about people in a hurry.
Oh, yes.
Nobody will mess your stuff up quicker than somebody in a hurry.
Yes.
That is exactly why I don't offer hourly rentals. And there's guys that are probably listening to this that are like, what are you talking about? I make a killing off of hourly. I don't care. Not me, because if they got that 4-hour time frame, they are in a rush. I got to get it back within 4 hours. I don't want to pay for the whole day. I do 24 hours, dude. Take your time. Drive safe.
Exactly. And to be honest, for my business, I don't get bent out of shape if they're running a little bit late and they've kept me in the loop.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Yeah.
okay. I don't want you rushing and tearing something up.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And I've had people keep it extra overnight because like, dude, it took us a lot longer and I can get it back to you tonight, but we're gonna have to drive all night. I'm like, no, dude, that's not safe. Like, if it's not interfering with another rental, like just do your thing. And if it does, hey man, you're gonna have to pay, but I want you to be safe.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good call on the people in a rush thing. 'Cause that's real. You know, people will. I'm kind of the same way where it's like if somebody's in a rush and I'm just like, I don't know. I trust my gut a lot of times, or if I'm just like, I don't know. You know, just see ya. Sorry, it's not available. Nothing available. Good luck.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So that, or I'll feed the guys nearby. You know, if there's somebody nearby that has something, they don't mind it because everybody can operate a little differently. And
Right.
so I'll just send them that way. Hey, call this guy. He's got one. Call this guy. He's got one. Whatever. So
Yeah, exactly. The way you operate doesn't mean everyone else has to operate like that. You're talking about you got 7 trailers now. What kind of revenue does that look like on a monthly basis?
So it averages around 9,000 a month. The way that I do it is, you know, if you take all my daily rates and divide it up, it's about 98 and change per day. You know, so call it $100 per trailer per day that I average. You know, of course I got a small 6x12, then I've got a couple 7x16s, few car trailers, 10K, 14K, whatever. So, you know, it averages around 9,000 a month. And that's with about a 13, you know, to 14 day average per trailer. You know, some trailers, of course, 17, 18 days, some might be 8 to 10, like the smaller ones. But it does pretty well, and it's pretty consistent. You know, a slow month for me might be like $7,000. A busy month might be like 11, 12 grand. Those are the great months. But yeah, it's pretty consistent right around that 9,000 range though.
What kind of profit margin are you getting out of that?
You know, it's very high. it's kind of weird, but there's not a whole lot that goes into this. I break mine down per trailer. You know, it's like, okay, I've got my insurance, my GPS, a payment if I finance a trailer or whatever it is, and then a set amount that I just set aside each month for maintenance. I usually do $100 per trailer per month maintenance that I set aside, and it builds up this maintenance account. You know, it's like not every trailer is going to need tires all at the same time. They're not all going to need their bearings done at the same time. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's not bad. For most of pretty much all of my trailers, the first 2 rentals covers, really call it 3 rentals, covers 100% of its overhead. You know, that also means dividing up my, you know, expenses for my software, my website, and whatever. I mean, it's very minimal. So mind you, I've honed in this, you know, this whole thing quite a bit over the years. Early on, of course, my overhead was way higher than it needed to be, but it's very, very manageable. It's really easy. And the cool thing is now it's really easy to grow with, because it's like if I add a new trailer, it's like, all right, just got to rent it 3 days. I'm going to cover that new trailer on the fleet. We're good. You know, it really kind of is that simple now, you know?
Right. And I think one thing there that you do that's so important is you've got that maintenance fund for each. I don't know if you use one account or multiple accounts, but you've got the money in there for maintenance. So when you need to go buy a tire, you can go buy a tire.
Yeah. And there's a lot of preventative things I do too. Cause I mean, a lot of guys I've talked to some guys that spend a lot of money on maintenance, and there's a handful of things that I do. Like tires are a big one, of course. You know, some guys charge for tire damage, others don't. I charge for tire damage. You know, per my contract, that customer, it's their trailer while it's in their possession. If they had a flat on their own trailer, they'd be paying for it. You know, so I treat it the same way. But one thing I do is I have warranties on all my tires through Discount Tire Company. So if a customer does blow one out, or, you know, something happens and it can't be repaired, I just charge them for the new warranty I'm going to get charged for, plus $10. So it's usually around $50 I charge the customer. And thare usually ecstatic because they're expecting it to be a $200, $250 charge or lose deposit. So that saves a ton of money. So usually tires are a wash. And, you know, I have enough tire issues to where when they get replaced under warranty, and my trailers all run very similar tires or the same tires on most of them. So I'll sometimes swap them around to where I got basically a brand new set on this one. And then when I'm buying a set of tires, it's very seldom I have to buy a whole set of tires. Might be 2 here, 2 there. And I just kind of swap them around because they're all basically the same thing. So that saves a lot. And then, you know, all the other stuff, if it's something major or something in between, customers pay for it, you know? So that's never really an issue. I've got a buddy that works on my stuff for me. I never work on my own trailers as far as like the brakes and, you know, replacing seals and packing bearings and all that. I have a buddy that does that for me for dirt cheap. And that's what he does for a living is mobile trailer repair. So that saves me a ton of money. So I'm pretty fortunate with my setup and the way that I've done it. So my community fund for maintenance will say that $100 per month per trailer. I mean, it grows pretty fast. You figure $700 a month goes into it, and you're barely tapping into it, until you do, and then it's nothing. So it works out well.
Oh yeah, it sounds like it would.
Yeah, and one funny thing, and I don't see enough people doing this. It's kind of a maintenance thing, but also kind of a trailer damage thing. Kind of overlaps both. We've all had an issue where a customer may have gouged the deck, but it's not like you're going to go replace that board, but they made it a little uglier. Or maybe they dented the toolbox and you're not really going to charge. It's just a little thing. You're going to hammer it out, whatever. We let these little things slide. Or maybe a little dent in the fender. Don't worry about it. It doesn't need to be replaced. What I've been doing for like the last year and a half, and it has made a lot of money, is anytime one of those little things happens, I charge a flat rate of $20. And I'll tell the customer this. I'll say, hey, listen, put a dent in the fender. I'm not sweating it too bad. I do charge a minimum $20 or a flat rate of $20 anytime that happens, because it doesn't need to be replaced, but it did just age the trailer, make it a little uglier. I'm going to work on it myself. And that way, eventually, after another 30 people do this, the cost of the fender has been spread out over 30 people and not just me hitting you with it, which I could. Right. And most people are like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes total sense, And now, by the time I need to replace a fender or replace a deck board or replace a toolbox, I've collected this $20 off of 15, 20 people. So it's just another way to kind of, and take that money, put it into the maintenance account, whatever, which I would use for repairing things like that, whatever. So just another little thing you can do to kind of build a bigger ticket, grab an extra couple bucks, and it's not enough to run people off. Sometimes I will just get a Google review. That's another thing, but I usually reserve that for like a strap getting damaged, or maybe they returned it a little late, something like that. Otherwise, $20, customers don't even sweat. They're like, dude, I totally get it, And if it's a problem, I'll just say, hey, instead, give me a Google review. Don't worry about it. But it's just an easy way to build up your, I guess, the community fund, if you will, to address those things as they start happening.
I really like that idea, Justin. I haven't done that. I'm going to work that into mine, because I really like that, because this little damage adds up over time. And like you said, a little damage on the fender, a little bit more. Eventually, you got to replace it. And at that point, if it's all been this little damage, you don't have the money there. I mean, you got the maintenance, but it wasn't paid for,
Yeah. Well, it just gets to a point where it's like, it's not like I have a single solitary customer I can blame for this total loss to charge them $100 for this fender. But if I've charged 20 people, it's not near as bad. It's like just a bunch of little dings and dents. Eventually you'll have to do it because it just looks so ugly. Yeah. So it makes sense, and it's helped me quite a bit. So I recommend more people do it.
Yeah. The bad part about that is I owe my business a little bit of money, because the last time I used my own trailer, I gorged the bed.
It's so funny. Sometimes, I notice that a lot with like contractors. They will sit there and they will talk trash about their employees. Oh, they always beat stuff up, yada, yada, yada. But then they go to pull off, and then like they forget to raise the jack themselves or something. I'm just like, let's be real, man. Like, it can happen to any of us.
It can, yeah. I was unloading with tractor and the stingers on the front, and I got finished and looked at my trailer. I was like, oh man, it was looking so nice before that.
Right. Yeah. Those will hurt your feelings, when it's you that did it. That's the thing that kills me, is like the preventable stuff, especially if I'm responsible. I'm like, I'm an idiot. Why did I do that? These dumb things.
I'm like, yeah. Thinking back through your business, what were some things that you got wrong, or maybe you didn't expect?
Well, the thing I got wrong, first of all, is not taking it serious from day one. I truly got into it just to see what would happen. And I didn't even treat it like a side hustle. I mean, it was barely in mind until it wasn't anymore. And I would be so much further along if in that first 12 months, I would have gotten really serious really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So my advice to anybody that's getting started is just to learn from that mistake of me. It's like, you're getting into this, don't get into it just for the side thing. Like, you don't know where this can take you. It might be just a stepping stone to the next entrepreneurial thing that you decide to jump into. Whatever it is, but take it serious, because it kills me when I hear like, I'm just going to see how it goes before I really jump in. It's like, well, you're not going to know how it's going unless you've jumped in. That's how you're going to know how where it might actually end up. So take it serious, study your market, don't underprice yourself like I did, but take it serious early on. That was one thing that I certainly got wrong in the beginning. And as far as something that was unexpected, I didn't anticipate so many people getting into trailer rentals that were my customers. I didn't expect that. And now I expect it, of course. And I tell everybody, like, if you get started in your area and there's not a lot of people in your area, you are going to kind of start the trend of people renting trailers. They're going to take your contract and copy it. They're going to buy their own trailer and start renting it. It is what it is. So I embrace it now. If somebody pops up, I reach out to them, add them to my group chat, and we network together. But that's something I didn't anticipate happening. I was like, I'm getting fat and happy. And then like 5 people popped up. I'm like, wait, you're my customer. Wait a second, So
On that, I've had a few people ask me, so do you make any money with this? How they're quizzing because they're like, whoa, maybe this is something I need to do.
yeah, how many times do you hear that when they pick up? It's like, oh, it's a nice little business you got here. It's
Right,
like,
yeah.
I have no idea what about this nice little business. So
Yeah. I like to tell people, just because I make it look easy doesn't mean it's easy.
right.
And
Yeah.
I say that with tongue in cheek, but
No, I get it. It's like, I remember my neighbor complaining about, I mean, she wasn't complaining. She was commenting about, she had a roofer come. He was there maybe 20 minutes and did this fix, and it was like $300. And she's like, oh my, $300 for that amount of time. I was like, no. So that $300 was for the 20 years it took him to get to where he could do it that quick.
exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
Justin, what you see is the biggest challenge in the business now or currently?
I think the biggest challenge, well, it's tough. I think it's going to be different for different people. If I were to answer for everybody else that I talk to, I think the biggest challenge is getting over the idea that the market's saturated right now. A lot of people run to that and they think it's oversaturated. So they don't want to go full in because they think like, I'm just going to, like I mentioned earlier, is like just test the waters kind of thing, or people get discouraged or they kind of just, they can't stomach that there's somebody across town that's doing the same thing. That's certainly a challenge. Aside from that, I mean, personal challenges for me when it comes to rentals really is just staying consistent. A lot of that is more just entrepreneurship. I mean, being an entrepreneur sometimes sucks. It's not always fun. And, to be successful with this business, especially kind of we talked about earlier, being the first person to respond. Well, that requires me to respond while I'm at dinner at a restaurant,
Oh, yeah.
If I want that business, I've got to be on it. And that's certainly challenging. It can be very challenging also and amplified if you don't have a proper support system around you. I've seen guys that have immense talent and have an amazing setup. They just don't have a supportive spouse, for instance, and they never break out of that initial startup because they just don't have the support to go all in and do this thing. And that's sad. It really stinks. But at the same time, if you don't have the support, you really shouldn't get into it because it's just going to cause problems. If I may be Dr. Phil for a moment, but those are several of the challenges that I see other people have and that I've had. Luckily for me now, I mean, it's crazy the difference of having a supportive partner versus not. Like my girl now, she's incredible. Shout out Kia, love you. She, she'll look over my shoulder and make sure I'm typing stuff, make sure I'm not looking like an idiot, and she's like, oh, that's good. Or if we're at dinner, she sees my phone light up, like, make that money. She's so
Yeah.
encouraged. And that makes such a difference compared to, I know other guys that like they need to run outside really quick, or they were inconvenienced one time by the business and it was, DEFCON, whatever. I mean, it totally blew up. So having a supportive partner is very, very key. And that's certainly a challenge that a lot of people have, especially younger folks. Okay. I talk to a lot of younger guys, and young entrepreneurs sometimes don't realize what being an entrepreneur can do to your relationship's time. And a lot of young people don't like that they share their time. They don't understand it. They don't have the mindset for it. Not everybody, but I see that a lot with younger people. Will say, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and they have a hard time getting the support of people around them and realizing what it means to be an entrepreneur and really get into this thing. So anyway, I know I just gave you a lot of answers to that question, but yeah, that's the handful of them that I see quite often that people struggle with.
Oh, yes. And, a supportive spouse goes a long ways. When I wanted to do this, I wore my wife down, and finally she's like, fine, go get a trailer. So I went and bought 2. She's been very supportive. The thing that she has helped me the most on, and this is going to be kind of crazy, I am terrible. If I could give you everything, I might do it. I want to help people. And I would give out discounts almost like candy for some reason. And she was after me. She's like, why are you discounting it? You said this is the price you need for this to work out. Why are you giving discounts to everyone? So that has really slowed me down on that. And to be honest, they didn't need the discount. All I was doing was hurting myself and my own growth. But I just being empathetic or whatever. I don't know what it was.
I get it. Yeah. And you're also training your customer base to expect discounts.
Yes. Yeah. Training your customer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Yeah, and that's with me. I don't offer discounts ever. And my recommendation, if anybody is going to offer discounts, whether it be the homie hookup, the military discount, the neighborhood discount, my coworker discount, my mama's moving discount, whatever
Right.
it is, if you're going to offer a discount, figure out what that dollar amount or percentage is going to be and stick to it and never change it.
Oh,
For me, it's 20%. If I'm going to give anybody a discount, it'll be 20%. I never have to remember it. I never have to
Oh,
think
right.
like, oh, what did I do for him last
Yeah.
time? Oh, that other guy's going to get mad. I gave him 10% and him 20. You never have that happen. And as far as discounts, I don't get creative with like, you do 3 days and you get a $50 discount. You do this and if you get a 7-day rental, you get 1 day for free. That's it.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all I do. And the only other time I'll do any discounts is just to find out if a certain flyer is working in a certain area. If I have like a 10% off flyer,
Oh,
that's just to get data and feedback on like, okay, they mentioned the flyer. I'll give them the 10% off just because they mentioned that. And that's just for my own business development and knowing like where my marketing efforts are actually working. But aside from that, discounts are very, very, very limited in my business.
and doing it for the flyers and testing marketing, that's a great way so you know exactly where they came from.
For sure. For sure.
You mentioned earlier through the journey of your business, started out with just a trailer and you've expanded and now you've contracted back down to about 7. Is that where you see yourself staying, or what's your goal with that?
It's tough to say. Where I'm at now, I'm pretty fat and happy with, the business that I have, the trailers that I have just work. I may add another one here and there just because if I find a deal or something, but I'm more focused on supporting the trailer hustle community and growing that than I am growing the rental side of things at this point. The rental side of things pays all my bills and does, it supports my life. I'm great there. So I don't know that I necessarily want to expand it anymore at this time. I could very easily, but I'm happy feeding like the excess, the overflow customers that I get to the people around me and networking with them. So I think right now I'm pretty happy where I'm at least until maybe the next couple of years. We'll see how trailer hustle goes and all that. Who knows? I have a feeling that my focus will remain on trailer hustle more so than the trailer rental side of things.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, it's time or almost time for our famous 4 questions. But before we transition to them, do you have anything you'd like to add that we didn't cover?
No, I mean, thank you so much for the great questions and conversation. And it's always good when somebody is kind of in the business and knows some of those questions to ask and knows some of the struggles or can understand some of the things that I'm saying. I would say anybody that's getting into this, what I would say is do your research, test out different companies for your software, join as many different groups as you can. Just remember, there's not a one size fits all approach to this.
Right.
Don't think that because somebody got out of a Lamborghini and told you I can make you 6 figures this month. That's not reality. Okay. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of research, and every day do one thing that moves you closer to that goal of expanding your business. Every day do one thing. It could be so small. It could be watching a 5-minute YouTube video about standing a deck on a trailer, something so small. It could be, reading about a product that you might want to add to your fleet, or it could be something huge like I formed my LLC today. Whatever it is, do one thing every single day, and you will be amazed at the end of 7 days, 14 days, 28 days, a year, where you're going to be. So just stay consistent, stick to the fundamentals, and do one thing every day.
I really like that. I'm going to have to do a better job of that because some days not too much happens on my trailers, but
We're all entitled to that for sure, but the longer that you stay consistent in your hustle, the better you'll be for sure.
oh, yes. Yeah. Well, Justin, it's time for our famous 4 questions. Same 4 questions we ask of all of our guests. Our first question, what is your favorite tool for the rental business?
Favorite tool for the rental business? Only because I switched less than a year ago. My favorite tool right now would be, my favorite, actually, you know what? I'm going to switch my answer. My favorite tool for the rental business is the community of people that are in the rental business or in the trailer industry that you can bounce ideas off of, get feedback from, ask about, hey, this is the kind of damage I just sustained. What do y'all recommend for a fix? Hey, I've got a trailer stranded in this area. Is there anybody located in that area who can lend a hand? Having the community, in particular, of course, the Trailer Hustle Facebook group, that's been, there's almost 20,000 people there just doing what we're doing interested in it that are able to lend a hand and help. That is probably the most useful tool that I have right now in my business, for sure.
Yeah, community is such a big part and can be so beneficial if you lean into it.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely.
Our second question, what resource, podcast, book has been beneficial to your rental business?
Well, I would say, if I may hijack the question a little, and I've got a book, it's my favorite book I've ever read that's helped me in life and in entrepreneurship and in hustle in general. And the author is Larry Wingett, and the book is called Work for a Reason. That is an excellent book. And if I may, on top of that, he has another book called Grow a Pair. And I think everybody should be required to listen or, audiobook or read both of those books before, like as a graduation requirement or something.
Oh, yes.
They're excellent books, but it's called Work for a Reason is a very, very important book, and Grow a Pair. Those are my two favorites, and they've helped me out a lot just in, my everyday life and realizing like what you have to do to be successful, and just in general, what you have to do to maintain good quality of life. Definitely good reads for anybody that's looking.
Oh, excellent. And I have not read either of those, so that'll go on my to-read list. And to be transparent, my to-read list is way too long, but we'll add them.
For that, no, you might have to put them in a lottery system, like a spin board or something, so that way it randomizes
Exactly,
it. So, yeah.
yes. Yep. Question number 3, what would you tell someone just getting started?
Well, just to kind of reiterate, take it serious early on. Take it serious early on. Don't dip one toe in, because you're probably not going to see enough motivation to dip the rest of the foot in. So take it serious, get your processes in early, figure out how it is you want to operate, be selfish with the way you want to run your business. Be very selfish. Just remember, you're starting this business, or you're starting a business for yourself. You're not starting it for your customers. Nobody gets started saying, I just want happy customers. That's a consequence of running a great business. But first and foremost, you have to look out for yourself. Make sure you're doing it for the right reason, which is to support yourself and your family and your livelihood. And just make sure you're very selfish with how you run it, and make sure you're happy with the way you're running it. Don't do things that, people push you into different corners or different lanes. Do things in a way that make you happy and don't discourage you. Look out for number one, first and foremost, and take it serious as early as you can.
Excellent advice. And lastly, where can others find out more about you?
Yeah, trailerhustle.com is a great resource. We offer consultations there. So if you ever want to sit on the phone with me one-on-one for an hour and just discuss the business, if you're just getting started and you have a lot of questions that you'd like to get answered, I'm happy to help. We also provide a lot of documentation and templates for contracts and checklists and maintenance logs and things like that for you to use for your business and customize for your business. Join the Trailer Hustle Facebook group. Like I say, we're approaching 20,000 members there now. It's a free group. Just answer the membership questions or you won't be let in. And then utilize that search feature. If you have questions, you can just scroll through. But there's been tens of thousands of threads in there. If you've got a question about something, type it in the search and or whatever the topic is, and read all about it. That's a free resource. And finally, we have the Trailer Hustle podcast on YouTube, as well as the Trailer Hustle mobile app, if you want to network with more people in the industry and have access to more resources.
Very good, Justin. Really appreciate you coming on and joining me today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a blast. And one of these days we'll flip the script and have you on my podcast.
Sounds like a good plan to me. Justin's advice to take it seriously early on stuck with me. When you only dip one toe in, you don't get enough momentum to keep going. Most people never start, but the ones who do figure it out as they go. This is really something I need to focus in on my business, taking it seriously and really getting it out there and doing more. For our next episode, Adam, the tent guy, is here. He maxed out his credit cards right out of college to buy 3 tents. He worked 80 plus hours a week at a gas station overnight to fund the next season. He also estimates he's made about $350,000 of mistakes, so you don't have to. Thank you for listening to the Rent It Out podcast. Small rentals turn into real income when you stay consistent. List it, rent it, repeat.